I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just want to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 6 of the Penguin series. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Max, check out that episode, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from episode 6 of the Penguin series, it's Jon Jon Rico.
Hey!
Hey!
What's up?
Whew. So much.
What a series.
Oh, man.
Just continues to get better and better.
Man, and look, I feel it, and I know it. I sound like a broken record. Every one of these episodes just feels like a movie, and it really does. Like,
yeah,
from like the acting to like the sets to just like how grand everything looks in these. Oh,
it holds up the standard that was set in the movie.
Universe building that we have, like in this. Oh, it just they take. You know what I think? Another thing that maybe I haven't mentioned before. That kind of adds to this thought is they let things breathe, and they allow things to take an extra beat. That like a series that was being kind of edited for time or for to make everything cut to something else really quick. It definitely feels like a series, whereas this things like going into a new scene takes a few extra beats to breathe, coming out of the next scene, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're playing with like, oh, we have all the time in the world in like the best way possible. Nothing drags or anything, but it's just that's something that you get with a movie where establishing things take a little bit extra beat because they have that length. It's bigger than a series type of thing, and they've just got it in this, and it's just awesome. It's just awesome every week. But I mean, that just leads perfectly into this episode. I mean, there were so many intense, like, powerful scenes in this. In this episode in particular, but in this series in general. But
yeah,
one thing that I've started, I picked up on early in the episode, and then I saw a progression, and I really enjoyed seeing that progression. Was the Oz and Vic's relationship, which is very complicated at this point.
To say the least, yeah.
Yeah. But we see very early on in the episode where we kind of have like a family dinner, basically, or family breakfast, I guess. Not dinner, right. Breakfast. And Vic is trying to, it all comes down to Oz's mother's illness.
How they handle it. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's having an episode. And Vic is trying to settle her down by basically kind of accepting her episode and kind of trying to be on her level and just
trying to walk her through it, essentially.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. And Oz is trying to snap her out of it, going, "I'm Oz, I'm your son, I'm not dad." Like immediately trying to like counteract what she's saying, and you see him snap at Vic. And then also, once Vic kind of, is out of the shot, you see Oz basically saying, "It's just me and you, Ma," type of thing. Like saying, like, Vic is not part of this. It's just us type of thing. No one else is around. The brothers are gone. Dad's got, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just us. As this episode goes on, we see more interactions with Oz and Vic. And one interaction in particular that I really kind of starts to see this progression, I think a lot for me, is right after Vic goes back underground to see Oz after he shot Squid. And Oz can tell immediately that, you know, something's up. Something's wrong with Vic. He's not himself. He's not, like, you know what I mean? Like, he knows immediately what is happening and stuff. And that, I feel like, is a shift from Vic is a worker, a helper. He might be his right-hand man, but it's a work right-hand man type of thing, to I'm seeing a genuine, like, care for Vic, almost like a brotherly, now like a younger brother kind of relationship. I'd like to see, you know, get into more about what happens towards the end of the episode, but in that very moment, I think there was the shift to where, like, now Oz kind of was seeing Vic as like a younger brother, because he basically, number one, he hugs him like he would like a younger brother, not a coworker. But also he tells him, go home tonight. He basically says, you know, clean yourself up, get a good night rest, eat some food. Like, you know what I mean? Like, telling him something you would say to a younger brother that was distraught and you know, was dealing with stuff. Like, I don't want you here to work. Go home, type of thing, you know? And that's where I thought it was really interesting, because we saw that we've been seeing it this entire series, their relationship kind of progress and evolve and stuff like that. But I just feel like this was kind of the biggest shift that I felt, at least. Like, I don't know if it's really there or if I'm imagining it, but like, that's just, it kind of shifted from right-hand man as far as business to brotherly, kind of almost like a younger brother, kind of, this person, I need to kind of, you know, be a little bit lighter on him type of thing. That's what I got from that scene. But what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts on Vic's overall mental state after he shot Squid, for sure.
Yeah.
My whole take on that whole scene after that is definitely, it's a little bit more of a fucked up version of love that he's showing him, because instead of kind of like consoling him in the sense that he just kind of like took his first life, he kind of, his way of doing it is just kind of being like, it gets easier, which is his way of just saying like, you're gonna do it again and again and again for me. So it's like, I think to me it was showing that he's kind of getting like this more firm of a grasp on Vic and this kind of like relationship that they have, and in his own sense, and like I said, it's his own messed up way of showing love to him because of this power dynamic that he's had in his own life, right? So it's and also and also some like kind of unknown stuff that we haven't really seen, again, more stuff with Oz and his brothers. We know that he does a brothers that he loved very much, so I think there is that certain kinship that he sees in them in that same way, kind of like what we talked about with Agatha and Billy and Agatha all along, right?
Yeah,
it's that same dynamic. But yeah, it's a very wild thing to kind of watch him go from like showing the soft side versus like the boss side, I guess, right?
Right.
So it's towing the line between the business and the personal relationship.
Yeah, and look, I am in no way saying, you know, it's a normal, healthy brotherly relationship.
Ain't nothing healthy in this show.
Right. I'm just saying you can see the difference between, you know, guard or like right-hand man or other criminal to more of a shift of like a fucked up family relationship.
Right.
Like,
there's obviously another level of trust there to begin with, because he trusts him with his mother at all. So there's obviously there's going to be that growing bond on that aspect too. And seeing the way, the different ways they handled kind of her episodes is another kind of it's a cool way to kind of show one the difference between someone who has a different level of empathy for people like Vic versus like someone who probably didn't grow up having that kind of level of empathy for people like Oz. So just kind of showing how different they are in similar situations is cool. It's interesting to watch.
Yeah, definitely. But what were some of your instant reactions for episode 6?
So, you know, kind of going along that, you know, that same scene kind of brings up one of the things that I was feeling. I just feel conflicted throughout this entire show because you know, whether it's that scene in particular where, like, you know, I feel bad for Vic, and even though he did something to protect himself, so like I commend him for doing that. He had to take a big leap, but it's also like, damn it, he's also descending further into the slide that we don't really necessarily want for this kid. And then of course, like, we get great moments where like, Oz is having good moments in his plan, and then of course it's also undercut immediately by like something that's gonna like be a gut punch to him later on. So it's just like the show is just doing in a masterful way. I feel like where especially when it comes to Oz, I think it's just a great way where I feel sympathy for him, but at the same time I hate his guts. But also like he makes me laugh to in a hysterical way as well. Like he's able to bring so many different emotions out of me. Yeah, it's just like again, it makes me feel conflicted about how to feel about his overall character. Even and he's a bad guy, so at the end of the day, I'm supposed to feel like he's a bad guy. So, but it's the fact that like all these decisions that he makes are ultimately going to affect some good people in his life, and whether he wants that to happen or not. So, yeah, I just love the way they kind of set these moments up where it's just like, how am I supposed to feel in this particular moment? And I don't know what's happening. And it's just like, yeah, it's a real emotional roller coaster to say the least.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah. And I mean, there is no like, it's not like, other series where you get like a villain and then they kind of turn and they have this redemption arc and you get like basically an anti-hero type of thing. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like Oz is a bad guy.
Yeah. It's kind of I mean, to a lesser extent, Breaking Bad almost kind of did the same thing with the character predictions. So he was someone who was a good person who ended up ultimately being a bad guy later on, but we were still rooting for him. And this we've grown to love the bad guy as a society. So it's the same. It's kind of that same thing with Oz. Like we're rooting for him because he's our protagonist and he's getting one over on his enemies, but it's like he's still doing some pretty bad stuff at the same time. So it's like, oh, how am I supposed to feel?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'm right there with you. But you want to get to some big takeaways?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna give up big takeaways. Basically, like I said, there were so many like memorable and powerful, scenes throughout this entire episode. But one scene that I really enjoyed, I guess, I enjoyed is an odd word for it. So maybe it's not enjoyed. It's something. It's one scene that I thought was something was the beer scene.
The Golden Summit?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically the title of the episode, the Golden we are seeing in real time the actual rise of the Penguin.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like we're actually getting that scene.
This is one of the biggest steps that he's taken so far.
Exactly. Yeah. Like that I thought was just such like an interesting scene to have that summit, but to also like have, we're seeing him go from, ground level to, when we get to maybe the Batman sequel, he's already like a major player on the field type of thing. We're seeing that origin scene
right
here.
Right.
And I just thought that was really cool to see. Also, to have this scene where you can see in real time Oz talk himself like into basically making it like talk everyone else into making
one of his greatest assets is his ability to just talk himself into or out of situations. Right. Yeah.
Even when they know that like he's just like he has no code or anything, and he's just like he basically just spins even that to like
he makes good points.
Yeah. It was just such like an interesting scene to me. Like that's why like it is of all of the incredible scenes in this episode, and there were plenty. That does not take away from that one, but I wanted to make a note of that one because I just think we're gonna look back after we see him in like as a major player, going, oh that was the origin scene. That was the moment. We got it. We actually have it in his series. But Rico, what were some of your big takeaways for episode 6?
Yeah, that was a really cool scene. I just like their way of like giving everyone a beer and their way of like kind of like co-signing is just like just popping the top of it. I'm like that's kind of I love that. Like yeah, it's just really great. It was really great. But yeah, just again, one of the best things about the show has been watching him just using his gift of gab, if you will, to be able to kind of talk himself out of certain situations and being able to convince people to kind of be on his side. Even I won't say it was the last scene when he was convincing his old crew to be like, you want to work for me, you don't want to work for Sophia, essentially. So yeah, that was really fun. That was definitely one of the more like enjoyable. I would say enjoyable scenes, and that was a scene that you could definitely sit back and enjoy just watching him kind of work his deal, right? No one was getting brutally maimed in the process too. But a scene that I loved a lot was really, I want to say it was one of the first scenes of the episode, which was the Sal and Sophia cooking scene as they're making dinner. I just thought that was just a beautifully acted scene between two really great actors too. Again, I love the way they're using Clancy Brown in the series as Sal Maroni. I really hope that he's someone that sticks around. And I have a feeling that he might not stick around through the end of the season, but I really, because I want to see that character interacting with the Batman as well. Like he's just that great of an actor, and he's just like a really cool player within the Batman world. And I just love the way they've utilized this Falcone and Maroni. I keep saying Falcone, it's Falcone. They keep saying Falcone on the show, but I'm so used to saying Falcone from when I read it in the books. But Falcone and Maroni, like to me, it always felt like the Romeo and Juliet, like Montagues and Capulets, kind of a family dynamic. You know, these two enemies, and so now you have like the two kind of remaining prominent players of those two families. Having this great one-on-one scene and kind of hashing out their differences and kind of bonding through shared trauma and also like misconceptions about each other. They're both kind of like raised to kind of know different things about each other. Of course, you know, Sophia being raised to kind of learn that, you know, Sal is the bad guy, the enemy of the family. And I'm sure Maroni has her reputation of the hangman stuck in his head, I'm sure, just like everybody else does. So to kind of see them all bond in that kind of moment and truly feels more like a father-daughter relationship than Sophia and Carmine ever had. Just like it's not as like manipulative, of course, and they just have like a certain. I use the word kinship a lot with these shows because it's these characters who kind of have like this family bond, but they're not necessarily family, right? So yeah, that was a really enjoyable scene, just kind of watching those two kind of work together, which was really great. And then of course later on the more of these kind of sympathetic scenes for Oz, of course, is the first scene with his mother, of course, when he finds her in the bathtub and gets her out, and they have that really emotional scene where she basically, you know, she asks him to do what he needs to do if necessary, and he struggles with it, of course, but then he's you know, she gets into that voice, you know, that kind of like what sounds like a mob boss voice of herself. She goes, you're gonna fucking do it. He's like, okay, I'll do it, Ma. Okay. And you're just like, damn, wonderful acting on their part again. And it also sets up a crazy ending too, because that's where like the big brutal gut punch of it is, because you finally get to see this moment where Oz gets a big win for them. They get the power back in the apartment, and we get the nice scene of Vic and I always forget the name of her, but Oz's mom dancing. Right. And I just remember as I'm watching them, like, well, we're getting like a nice little ending here. We really get like a nice ending in these episodes, and I'm like, why did I say that? As soon as we get the shot at the end of the episode, I'm just like, no, dude, like, why are they doing this to me? And like, there's been a few times where I truly gasped at the end of an episode because I know something bad's about to happen. And yeah, that scene right there was it's funny because as I'm watching that, I heard a thud. And I was like, what the hell was that?
Yeah. No, it was the door sound. And the fact that they didn't automatically pan to show Oz coming through the door, I knew something was weird.
I was like, that's where I started to get the little tingle feeling like, oh, this isn't good. This is not good at all. Like this is too happy right now. And then boom, we get that final shot of Sophia in the part. But really the big thing about that is that she knows that Oz has been lying about his mother the entire time too, because that was a huge thing. And man, and the whole thing of that being set up with Eve's betrayal too. That again, going back to Oz's relationship with women in his life, and how ultimately it leads him down the darker path. When he's, you know, he says that that's the good in him still, but now when he's about to probably lose both of the good things in his life, what good is going to be left in Oz now at this point? So, yeah, this is going to be a very interesting like kind of setup for what's going to happen next week.
Oh man, yeah, like it was an interesting scene. In the fact of there was a lot of hang time on Sophia in that scene too. So we got to actually see her figure it out in her head going, oh my God, this is Oz's mom.
Well, yeah, and now
everyone has thought that she's dead.
Yeah. And now she can do exactly what she thought she couldn't do before, which is probably get something back personal on Oz, which is very bad.
Yeah. So I have a prediction about like what might be happening next week type of thing. So you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm gonna roll right into it. I apologize. I'm going first twice. It's not on our brand. Normally we trade off.
I set you up.
Yeah, you set me up too perfectly. And so what I wanted to say is I understand, you know, Sophia has the crowbar, and so like the implication is, oh, she's gonna beat some people with that type of thing. I think maybe she knocks out Vic and takes Oz's mom hostage, because there's no way she's just, you know, killing them both right there type of thing. Number one,
no, they would have left that for the end of the episode, I think. If that, yeah.
No, number one, I think she wants to bring the mom back to Sal and be like, because Sal was making such a big deal. Yeah. Well, Sal was making such a big deal of he took everything from me and he's got nothing type of thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like
she's going to give him his chance.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That, and they still can't find Oz. They can't track Oz down. Like can't nail him down somewhere.
Right.
So they need to flush him out. And that is the only way to do that. Vic's not going to get, like, if they kidnap Vic, like, they may take Vic just to take both of them, but they wouldn't just take Vic.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? I think more than likely they like I said, she tells Vic to tell, you know, Oz, like, where they are type of thing, then knocks out Vic, then takes the mom, like, to get Oz to come out of hiding and to set up a scenario where, like, they can, you know,
have a final showdown.
Yeah, basically. So that's what I think's happening. But I'm very curious on what the interactions between Oz's mom and Sophia and Sal is going to be like, because we have Oz's mom, who, when she's lucid, she is just like you were saying earlier.
Oh, I can't wait to see what kind of shit she'll talk to him.
Yeah, mob boss mom.
She doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. And then when she's not lucid, like, just, she doesn't care. Like, she'll just think she's, you know, she's around, you know, new neighbors or something, like, you know what I mean? Like, so those, in any of that interaction, I really am interested to see how that goes.
Yeah, I'm curious how much, like, what kind of age difference there is between, like, Oz's mom and someone like Sal Maroni, because I'm curious if they've had interactions in the past, and, like, you know, I was like, I remember you or something like that.
Oh.
Like, and maybe like maybe they both have a common ground with when it comes to, like, Rex Calabrese. That's a gangster that's been brought up a lot of times in the show. Even brought up in this episode when she has one of her episodes where he's like, I'm gonna go get Rex. And
right.
So yeah, I think that's gonna be a fun dynamic to watch. Like, whether she's lucid or not, if Sal sees something in that, if that triggers maybe a level of empathy within him as well. There's gonna be a fun dynamic to watch when those three together, for sure.
I'm interested to see. Yeah, that's what I'm. One thing I'm really interested to see. Now it's gonna be horrible because, you know,
even Sophia.
Yeah. I mean, that too. Like, I mean, it's just gonna be interesting. I'm very interested to see. But that's kind of my prediction for next episode. Is, you know, I don't think we're just gonna pick up with Sophia has murdered both of them. Type of thing. I hope at least she plays it smart. She tells Vic to tell Oz where she's taking the mother, type of thing, and then, like, probably knocks out Vic, I'd imagine, type of thing. And then we have, you know, Oz coming back the next morning, type of thing, to Vic unconscious, waking up, and then kind of filling him in. Like, that's what I really think is going to happen next. But Rico, what are some of your predictions for next episode?
Yeah, this is gonna be a wild, like, final kind of like 2 episodes that we have going up here. Next week being kind of like the penultimate finale, which, you know, historically those episodes of the seasons are always setting up really big things. But yeah, I think one of the things I'm really interested in is going to be Vic's character arc after killing Squid. Because obviously that's a line that once you cross, you can't go back from it, and it's gonna. We've already seen him going through some crazy PTSD stuff when it came to the flooding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm only wondering how that's gonna either enhance that part of his personality, and how it ultimately is going to lead to whether the bond between him and Oz gets stronger or creates a divide between them. I obviously I don't know what the future of like the show itself will be after this. If they just want this to be something that goes directly into the next movie and then they're done with it, or if they're like, well, this was a big success, we're gonna have to do another season of this, right? So yeah, I don't know like how they're planning to wrap up his season arc. I would say for right now, like I don't have high hopes for many of the characters in this season. That feels like a lot of them aren't going to make it. But part of me is again, I hopes that they will. I just I just don't. My gut feeling just feels like a lot of these people are going to go within the next 1 or 2 episodes, and it ultimately is going to be the thing that drives Oz's character forward to a place of power. So whether he has people by his side at the end of that or not is, to me, almost remains to be seen. But I would like to see Vic kind of being like the right hand man to him in the next movie as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the hope, is
tying all continuity together, right? The way they bring in movie characters and this, I want to see, like, I want the payoff of having watched this show in the next movie, as opposed to being like, well, I know how we got to that place of power, but I want to see like a certain character or something like to pop in, right? So that, and then leaves some more opportunities for these actors too. Like, yeah, I got a role in the show, now I'm in the next movie. So it's like, yeah, I think that part of that character dynamic to me, and like we said before, watching Sal and Sophia with, if they have Oz's mom with them, however that all transpires, I'm excited to see how it all kind of goes down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, basically it kind of goes back to what you were saying, starting off with your predictions, is it's going to come down to if this is a one-off like season series type of thing that's just supposed to lead into the movie, then everybody's expendable, basically, except for Penguin at that point. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Except for Oz. Basically, everybody could be wiped out, and it won't really have any bearing other than, we saw the rise of Penguin from a small time to now he's a major part of the kind of the villain arcs in the next movie type of thing. So, or if like you said, this is very popular, we want to be able to build out another season.
Right. Which I feel like would be the case. Yeah.
At some point, like, they could still have these events lead right into another thing that I noted is it is now winter. Like, we got all these establishing shots at the beginning of this episode showing us it's winter, and it's rumored that the Batman sequel movie is taking place in the winter.
Yeah.
So it's very possible that we could still have this season end leading directly into the Batman movie, the Batman sequel movie, and then, come out the other side of the Batman sequel movie and having
a fresh story for him.
Yeah. Having a second season of it, but everything's kind of different. Whatever the events of the movie cause, then we have the aftermath of that, and then another, like, in a season 2 type of thing.
Right. Yeah. And then I know they were like, basically, I feel like they're pretty adamant about saying like that Batman wouldn't be in the show. But as I'm watching the show, there are certain points in the episodes where I'm like, that would have been cool if they kind of brought up Batman here, because now that he is a looming presence. But like, after how much time has gone from the flood, like, what is he doing right now? Like, what is he taking care of? So like, again, I'm wondering if that's something that's going to be explained in the movie itself. But yeah, but now, like, I also want to see some of these characters like interacting with the Batman. Like, I would love to see Sophia in like a one-on-one scene with the Batman in like her full, like, get up, the makeup and the hair and the dress and all that. So like, yeah, like, you got all these characters that are going to fleshing out this world. And we saw him interacting with someone like Carmine already in the first movie. So yeah, again, and I said before, yeah, I would love to see him in a scene with Sal Maroni as well, Clancy Brown. Like, I just feel like that one-on-one would just be a great scene. But yeah, during the scene, the Golden Summit, I think that was the first scene, or in this episode, where I had the thought, like, how does Batman not know that these like big families are meeting in outside right now? And there was one shot, I believe, in this episode where someone looks outside. I want to say it was Oz or Vic or somebody, and it's like a cool little city, like, kind of shot, like, a view of the city. I think it's when they're looking out at the lit up part of the city. He's talking to Vic. Yeah, I think is that scene. And I'm like, that would have been cool if they just had like the light out, the bat light, the signal. just because that's the way of showing like he's out there, right? Like if they would have done that and just had like one little like reference of a nod, like yeah, he's out doing his thing again or something like that. Like I just think that would have been. I wouldn't. It would be cool to kind of get that little. We might get that in the last episodes. I'm imagining.
That's what. Yeah.
But it would have been kind of cool if we were just kind of like tying little threads in there every now and then. Like I always think back to how like the first season of the Daredevil show did that with like the events of the Avengers movies when they were trying to tie them together. To like, yeah, talk about the green guy or whatever. Like, yeah, just get the wing freak out of here or whatever. As long as I do stuff like that. Like that's to me is Batman comics when they're like, he's still a looming figure in the shadows, so they have to be somewhat in their minds and sometimes.
Yeah, and I'm still holding out hope that we will see some or get some reference to him in the finale. Like, yeah, I'm not full on saying like let's see him, but like it would be cool at some point to get that, just because we have this is pretty much going to be leading into the movie. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? So just to have that last little thread of continuity to be like, hey, so you saw that Penguin was the main character. Now we're gonna shift the main character lens back over to Batman in the next thing that Penguin's gonna be in. Like, you know what I mean? So like having that kind of shift would be kind of cool to have right there. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Towards the very end of the finale. But yeah, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of episode 6? And with only 2 episodes left, what do you think is going to happen before this series finally wraps up? There are no wrong answers. There are so many things going on, so many plates spinning, and this is going to be an insane last 2 episodes. I cannot wait. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.